All right, welcome to another edition of the Big Blue Report featuring that guy, two-time Super Bowl champion, former defensive captain of the New York Football Giants. Giants legend, all-around good guy, and he does the pre and post for the New York Giants on WFAN. That's Jonathan Casillas. The professor, Ryan Darlington. I'm Randy Zellea from Back Sports Page. And guys, it's been a while, but guess what? The logo on Ryan's hat says it all. New York Giants football. Let's get the conversation and get the season rolling. Real quick, this portion of the program is brought to you by Foco.com. That's right. Get all your Giants accessories, whether it's earrings, bobbleheads, hats, T-shirts, scarves, anything you want with the Giants logo on it. Show your fandom now for the New York Giants and go to Foco.com to get all your Giants gear now. All right, boys. First off, great to see you. We have not seen each other since before the draft, which feels like eons ago. But I will say, we asked 100 people, and they all liked, 99 out of 100 liked what the Giants did in the draft, and the 100th person was a Cowboys fan. So we just ignore what they have to say.
So, I don't know why we asked them in the first place.
No, I don't know. Why are we communicating with them? Anyway, guys, I love what they did in the draft. They picked the quarterback, which we were discussing that they were going to do. Abdul Carter is a stud. And, JC, you and I were at rookie minicamp this past Saturday. It seems like the draft class that they have this year has a very good head on their shoulders and a very motivated group.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And, I was talking to some staff of the Giants, while I was there just to get an impression on, what these guys are, coming across as. And they're like, man, these guys are like media trained and, they're good kids. You know what I mean? They're coming in the building and they're handling themselves very well, not just on the field, but, away from the field in the cafeteria and the hallways and, making those first impressions, man. I think that's, hitting the home run right even before you get back, step up to take back, because rookie minicamp is vanilla. Not too much going on, really it's just to get those guys' legs underneath them, like you're officially a football player in the NFL, but you're not part of the team quite yet. And then they make those, those last kind of 90-man roster moves. Is it 90? It's 90, right? 90-man
90.
roster.
Yep.
Make those last little 90-man roster moves, all of those undrafted free agents, who are they going to keep? And now it started today with that. They got that whole 90 group all out there together. So, it was good to see the guys. For me, I just like seeing them away from the football field, how they interact with each other. I love Jackson Dart's presence. He's cool. He has swag. He was dapping up everybody. Like, I like that type of stuff, especially from a quarterback.
Yeah, it's definitely the ability to be the tie that binds, right? I mean, if everybody is going to be rallying behind somebody, you want them rallying behind your quarterback. And even if it's going to be, and hopefully it will be, we can get into this, but even if it is going to be a little while before he gets on the field, he's able to establish relationships and he's able to do it pretty quickly, right? Even with the media, right? There were folks that were saying, look, I've never had anybody ask me what my name was, right? Or where I was from. He's actually trying to develop a rapport with everybody. But I'll tell you, beyond that media readiness, beyond that kind of camaraderie, I am noticing a little bit of a streak of dog in pretty much all of those guys, right? And that's Cam Scatterbo is ready to take somebody's head off today, right? You ask Darius Alexander, he's ready to do the same thing, right? I mean, these guys are out there to ball, and they know it, and they want to win. And they are not afraid to stand in the trenches and actually go toe-to-toe with people. And so I'm excited to see what this group can do.
I really liked Marcus. I can't pronounce his last name. Marcus Bowe. Yeah, he was really, really, really really nice guy. And you know what? Had a good head on his shoulders, and he was saying the right things during his media session, and also discussed, that Andrew Thomas and some of the other guys from the offensive line all gave him a call on draft night, and he already got together with a lot of those guys already. So That's a really good sign too. Get him right in the fold. And some other news too before we dive into the draft a little bit more. We haven't had a chance to talk about it, but the Giants declined Evan Neal's 5th-year option. That was
the big surprise.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I was going to say.
We got to bring it up. We had to talk about it. Jesus.
Yeah.
But It's like
He's fighting for his life right now.
Sure.
You
yeah,
know, he's fighting for his future in the NFL, not just with the Giants, but with anybody, in the NFL. You know, what he has put on tape, his injury history, he's gonna have to have a really good year. And he has to be accepting of whatever role that the Giants are requiring him to do this year. You know, he was so kind of opposed to playing guard, and now he's a little bit open-minded when that thing looking like it might be closing up, relatively a lot sooner than he thought. But look, he's the guy that, when I watched him last year, in the last couple years, actually, whenever he was healthy, he couldn't really stay on his feet. There are
Mhm.
great athletes on the outside when you're playing that left tackle position. Not the same thing when you're inside at that guard position. I think he will be able to come back and that's at least look better on film to help him further, his career. Because it'd be very sad if he doesn't play more than this past this year. He definitely had a lot of potential coming out. you know, the Giants drafted him that high for a reason. He was an
Sure.
absolute monster in college, and hopefully he can kind of bring that back a little bit and give the Giants a little bit a bump on the offensive line.
and not only that, this reminds me a little bit like Eric Flowers. Like when we have to constantly talk about the potential that he has, but he's not able to perform at that level. It just feels like that over and over again, and you hate to see it. But Evan Neal just didn't really. It's not working for some reason. It's just not working.
I feel like both the Giants and Evan Neal himself will benefit from the reliance on him being the guy, right? Is not there. We have other guard options. We have other swing tackle options. We signed Forsyth. We signed, is it Hudson? We signed a couple of guys that are able to back up Illuminor on the right, able to back up Thomas on the left, right? And we've got guys like Stinney. We've got guys that are, Van Roten is the starter penciled in at this point, but there's going to be some good competition on the line. But we don't need him to be the guy, and that does relieve some of the pressure. Like you said, JC, he is playing for his career. So there's a little bit of an added motivation there. But I think not having to be the one that we are relying on at a particular position will probably help him this year.
Yeah, and the other thing too, I have to bring up JC. JC jumped into the media scrum like JC was the media member this past Saturday. He actually turned to me after one of his questions. He's like, "How'd I do?" I was like, season pro right there, baby. You got your stuff.
That's it.
JC, what did you think of? JC, what did you think of the Giants draft this year? What grade would you give them?
I mean, and this is just a draft based off of what we've seen from these guys in college, value versus need. Man, I think they hit a home run. I think I'd give them an A. It could be an A minus, an A plus, an A plus plus if Jackson Dart turns out to be that guy.
Yep.
I mean, the reason why they moved up in that first round to get him was so down the road if they had the option of the 5th-year option, and that's I think when you're thinking that forward, I think that says a lot about what type of mindset you have moving forward too, and being able to have Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston as professors, and Jackson Dart, you know, eh, he, he was what, the second quarterback off the
Yep.
board after
Yeah.
Cam Ward at number one.
Yep.
Cam Ward has all the pressure in the world to get on him, and it's rough because you're coming in as a kid, basically. You're a rookie, you don't know anything, and that's just what it is. And you have to lead a franchise, and everybody's depending on you. Jackson Dart doesn't have to do that.
Yeah.
The guy that the Giants are looking to follow is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, Russell Wilson. He's been in the league for over 10 years. He's had his success, he's had his Pro Bowls, had his all pros. He was in, MVP conversation not too long ago. And I think he is designed to get this offense to go down the field. And if you look at neighbors, you look at Jalen Hyatt and even Wandale Robinson in those intermediate routes, I think they're kind of setting themselves up for success. And if Jackson Dart can be that guy next year, then they hit a grand slam. And it'd been one of the better draft classes because I think we all understand the capabilities of Abdul Carter and putting him next to Dexter, Burns, Thibodeau, and Darius Alexander being there.
Man, just
I
think about
mean,
that.
That's
Just
what
think
I'm
about
saying.
that.
Like I'm
Yeah.
getting, bro, I just got goosebumps talking about it because when I think of the Giants, even before I played for the Giants, I did 6 years in the NFL before I played the Giants, before I played for the Giants. The Giants had a culture. and I'm from the area too. So I understand what the culture is. The culture is lead with your defense, lead with
Yep.
the defensive line with great, smart middle linebackers. That's the Giants right now. They haven't
Yeah.
looked like that probably since 2016 when I was there. Maybe I wasn't as great as a linebacker as we wanted to be, but the defensive line with JPP, OV, Damon Snacks Harris, and Jonathan Hankins, like this defensive line definitely rivals that one. And if Abdul Carter can become a stud, a 10 sack a year guy with Burns and Thibodeau, they're just
Oh
going to
God.
help open everything up, and there will be a nightmare for other
Yeah.
teams. Now, the offense has to do a lot better than 16 points a game.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yes.
But if the Giants hold teams to 17 points a game and they're only scoring 19 points a game, we're going to have a little bit more wins than losses. And I like that. And I always want to come back to this, the Giants have a chance now to compete in their division. 0-6 last year in the division is disgusting. They can never do that ever again. You can't go winless in a division. You can't even compete in your own division. Why are we talking about the playoffs?
Yeah.
Let's start in-house. Let's start in a division, down 95, down to Texas, and down in Washington. Those are two teams that represented the NFC in the NFC Championship game. So these are high-quality opponents, and I don't care if we hate Dallas, we dislike Dallas, they're always a competitive team.
Yep.
They're always a team that can score a lot of points, and they're always a team that can get after the quarterback. Defense took a step back last year, but for me, I think the way the draft set up, the way this offseason free agency set up, I think the Giants are going to have a chance to compete in the division.
We are poised for the first time in a while, I think. And I know we were saying we were very high on the team, last year coming out around the same time. But I think in this year's rendition, we are poised to really make a change in how we function as an offense and how we function as a defense, because we've got more competent quarterback play. We've got good receivers. We've got thunder and lightning now, with Scat and with Tracy. We've got change of pace backs. We've got a third down guy, right? And that's not even counting Motor or Singletary. So I think we are in a better position, and it's now going to be incumbent upon Daboll to get the best out of those players. Joe Schoen did one hell of a job, I think 2 years in a row, you could make a case for, to really stack this team with high quality talent. And now it's incumbent upon Daboll, I think, to actually put it all together and make it work and get the team to play for him.
Yeah, and not only that, too, guys. I wrote a feature on backsportspage.com about do we owe Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll an apology? Because look, at the end of the day, guys, the simple fact of the matter is, I've said this before on this show religiously. When you rebuild the team, you have to tear it down, and you're just going to have to suck for a while. You're going to have to be bad. The last 2 seasons was the part that was really bad. Mm-hmm. Now the Giants are ticking up. They're trending upwards. Mm-hmm. As you can see on the bottom scroll, I put down all the opponents for the Giants this season, both home and away. We don't have an easy schedule, no matter how it comes out. No matter how it comes out on Wednesday, the schedule is going to come out. Our schedule is going to be very, 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 very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I think expectations should be managed about what it's going to be, whether it's going to be, what is progress that John Mara is talking about? Is it 6-7 wins? Obviously, everyone will love the playoffs. Everyone would like for us to bounce back and win the division.
I've got Jim Mora in the back of my head. Playoffs?
Playoffs?
Are you kidding me?
Playoffs?
I'm trying to win a game. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
Well,
I love that, by the way.
So, no, we don't owe nobody an apology because they only won 3 games last year. So
That's right. 0-6 in the division.
0-6 in the division. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't for Drew Lock having literally one of the best quarterback performances we've ever seen, the Giants would have been drafted number 1 overall. So pump your brakes. It's a production league, and it's so far removed from 2022 when the Giants won a playoff game with Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and that company that they had. That team is not the same team. Are they an upgraded team on paper? Yes. But on paper, doesn't do anything in May. right? We got months to go.
Yep.
September is a while away. We got a lot of conversations to be had before then. But no, we don't know. We don't know anybody an apology. We're definitely going to give him his kudos for putting together this free agency period and this draft that they put together. I think they hit a home run. But you still have to win games.
Got to prove
You
it.
have
No,
to
I
win
agree.
games. You have to prove it.
But
And John Mara, out of his words, he's running out of patience. So I'm not gonna, put any leash or anything on him, but that's his words. He said he's running out of patience. This is a storied franchise. Last year, the big thing was the planes that were flying over top of MetLife, basically, calling for John Mara to
Yeah.
do something and fire people and get rid of everyone, right? And that is the temperature of the fan base. It was very difficult to watch the stands later in the season when it wasn't nobody there. When I say nobody, MetLife used to be jumping,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
very hard to watch uh, whatever team that the Giants were going against, in the fourth quarter, that team outnumbered Giants fans, and that's not because of the history or the culture. It's because they want to watch a good product, and the Giants just haven't put out a good product for basically 2 years.
Yeah. And the only way we're going to know if Mara's a genius or just was completely wrong is by looking at history. In 3 or 4 years, we're going to look back. We're going to see where we are as a franchise, and if we're in a better position, maybe playoff bound, right? In a few years because of Daboll having his guy at quarterback, because of Shane continuing to put good draft classes together and good free agency periods together, then okay, cool. We know he was right. But until they actually get on the field, Scott said it best in his presser when he was like, "How many snaps have you seen me take in the NFL? 0, right?" So he has proven nothing, and every one of them has everything to prove. And until they actually get there and actually start putting together some wins and playing some competitive football, we're just not going to know.
So the Knicks just won the series. I'm going to tell you why.
Yay!
So they're up 116 to 104 with 2 minutes left, and they'll go up 3-1. And Jason Tatum just was carted off the court.
oh,
So
Jesus.
I'd never ever want anybody to get hurt, but there is no way they're going to come back from 3-1
That's brutal
without Jason Tatum. It ain't happening.
I agree.
The Knicks won this series, and that is
I'm gonna knock
insane.
wood. I'm gonna knock wood.
That is insane. That is insane
Wow.
to say, bro. But
If you would have told me, sorry, not to go back to basketball, but if you would have told me in the beginning of the playoffs that Cleveland and Boston might be out of this thing, I would have called you a liar.
Man, I don't even watch like the games like that. And I was leaving my aunt's house last night for Mother's Day. Matter of fact, shout out to all the moms out there. Randy, my mom, Ryan, your mom, all of our moms, all of our, wives and Randy's situation. My sister, everybody's, shout out to moms. We wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be shit. We still ain't shit, but we wouldn't be shit without you guys. So shout out to all the moms. So I was leaving my aunt's place, and I happened to stop into a convenience store, and I looked up at the score at halftime. Cleveland was losing by 41 points at half.
Yeah, it was awful.
That was so disgusting to see, bro. Yeah, Jason Tatum, man, it's not looking good, guys.
Damn.
Yeah, and I never want to have anybody get hurt, any sport, even if they're a rival or anything like that. But that wraps up the series, man.
That's rough.
They're not going to come back from 3-1 against the Knicks. It ain't happening. It ain't happening.
Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen.
I know, right? Well, take it for what it is. New York will be jumping tonight for sure.
Here.
So Randy, real quick, what was your impression from Corey Black? Remember, I asked a question about Corey Black.
Yes.
And then he wanted to speak with me. What was your impressions about him? Because I thought that was awesome.
Well, what I like about him was how poised he was, and the first thing he said was, "I know I have a lot of work to do," but he really, he's the I listened back to one of our old shows, and we talked about the secondary and the moves that the Giants made during this offseason, and Ryan was talking about Tay Banks being the fourth. option. If you remember, in that one episode we were discussing that the Giants are doing something, and with this kid, they're adding so much depth to their secondary. I like with him. I've seen some game tape on him. I like what he's bringing to the table. He's a smart kid, and he's taking advice from you, JC. So he's already a smart kid. You know, like he called you over there, and he wanted to talk with you. I think that this class, not just him, but this class is a very, very motivated rookie class. And I think they all have a chip on their shoulder. That was the big thing. And, you know, he knows he has to earn his time because he's behind a lot of guys right now, but he said he's going to work to get his spots.
Yep.
I think he got an Achilles.
Oh no!
Yeah, the way it looked, you know, I might be a little premature, but he might have had an Achilles. Oh, that sucks. That means he's out, and he's probably going to come in later in the season next season.
Yeah,
he might miss the first couple months or two of the season.
That's not an easy recovery.
No, it is not.
Nope.
Man.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, all the best to him.
Yeah.
JC, the one guy who I had to ask you about too. I missed his media session on Friday. Was Abdul Carter? A lot was made of the jersey stuff the last couple of days. Like it's a nothing story, but it turned into something for some odd reason. But I have to ask about Abdul Carter. How do you think this will mesh with him, with Kayvon Thibodeau and Dexter and that group of guys?
Well, I think it's right on par with what we know of the Giants' dominant defense over the history of the Giants' defense. You know, the reason why the Giants beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl those 2 years, and it wasn't really because of Eli, and it was great catches and great throws being made. It was because that defensive line got after the GOAT, and before the Eagles got to him, Eli and the Giants defense were the only teams that beat the guy in the Super Bowl, and why was that? Because of the defense. The defense always had multiple pass rushers. It wasn't one, it wasn't two, it was three or more every single year. Michael Strahan, O.C. Amanyura, Justin Tuck, JPP, Tollefson. Like, you have guys that are rushing the passer. And it's multiple guys. And the way the league is now, you need multiple pass rushers. Adding Darius Alexander, and you still got the monster in the middle, Dexter Lawrence. All hail Dexter Lawrence. Bro, how many shows have we just talked about? We couldn't even speak about how dominant he has been. Now you add another guy who, when you ask him what position does he want to play, he's literally salivating because he's like, oh, I'm going to get on the edge and I know I'm going to be able to dominate. And you're telling me I'm not going to get double teamed?
Yeah.
Oh my
because
Lord.
Of the guy in the inside. God. And you got Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. Like,
So
sign me up.
Oh, for sure. Listen, guys, iron sharpens iron, right? This is going to be competition across the board. Abdul Carter believes he can hang with those guys, and I believe he can too, right? And so those guys are going to up their game. He's going to up his game. It's just going to be a situation where, I mean, knock wood, hopefully the injury bug doesn't bite, right? But they are going to have a very solid rotation, even if they have to put him off ball. Right? He's got such capability, and there are so many things that Bowen can do with him. It's not always going to be a direct competition for time off of the edge, right? There's just so much that they can do with him, and I'm really hoping that Shane Bowen is creative enough to come up with some really good uses for Abdul Carter, because the kid's a monster. He's just a monster.
And by the way, one of the last rookies we have to talk about is Thomas Fedone. Not even for his play on the field, but my God, did you hear the questions about the tattoos and everything like that?
They was asking about a tattoo. I wanted to jump in there, and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to jump in and talk about tattoos, man.
No, but the best question was, so what about that? He's like, oh yeah, I did that one myself. I'm like, this guy's tattooing himself?
It's himself, which is crazy. Which is crazy, because you got to be a little bit of a masochist to go ahead and inflict pain on yourself like that.
That's my God.
Move.
Oh yeah. But you gotta love that though. You need a guy that's got a little crazy, a little crazy in the eyes, somebody you're just not quite sure about, a little twitchy, you're like, holy God, what's gonna happen?
I'm sitting there saying to myself, this guy's tattooing himself. I'm sure he has no problem taking a hit on a football field. If he's
and he's gonna have to go against those Abdul Carters, those Kayvon Thibodeaux, those Brian Burns in training camp. And then, I've said this plenty of times on the show. I think the greatest athletes in the world are the pass rushers in the NFL. Yeah. They're big, they're strong, they're bendy, they're athletic, they're explosive. They're just as fast as the DBs, just as strong as every single offensive lineman in the NFL, right? Their arms go down to their ankles. They can bend, they're flexible, like they're insane athletes. Tight ends got to go against those guys, just like left tackle. So you got to be a little bit of crazy to go up against those dominant athletes on a consistent basis. And if he got a screw or two loose, to deal with these guys, I'm all for it, man. And I'm really impressed by this rookie class. Not only what they look like in paper, but in person, how they were, in the cafeteria. That's all I was doing. Like, I didn't really care to watch them on the practice field. I wanted to see them. But, this is vanilla stuff that they're running in these. And we're talking 7-on-7. There's no real physicality in it whatsoever. But I liked how they took the picture afterwards, how they were kind of just, vibing out and just being around each other, how they walked off the field, interacting with the media guys, interacting with the Giants staff, having some fun, sitting with each other in the cafeteria, again, interacting with the staff, not only the coaching staff, but the cafeteria staff, the cleaning staff, the upstairs staff that was in the cafeteria. I love to see these young kids, and I say young kids, they're grown men, but they're young when you compare them to everybody else on the roster. These guys are young pups, and I love to see that these young pups are starting off in the right way with the right type of guidance. With, mind you, there were no veterans in the building. These are all these rookies just putting their best foot forward, and I really loved what I saw.
And not only that, JC, you and I were talking about it briefly. A lot of these guys are just there to sort of show their face. Like, I was there just to be there, just to have my face there and let everybody know that I was still alive. And like a lot of the other media guys, like besides the main beat guys like Art and all those other guys who are there, have to be there all the time. A lot of the media guys are all just sitting there just like, hey, we're here.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, but between draft and OTAs, it's kind of a nothing burger, right? I mean, like we were saying, the rookie minicamp is just to kind of get people there, get them their helmets, right? Do a little 7-on-7 for an hour. I mean, this is nothing. But to your point, JC, the important part is this is their opportunity to socially get together and mesh as a unit, mesh as a team. Because they're going to take those bonds into the season with them, and it's going to make an easier time for
them. Real quick, guys, let's do some trivia here.
Yay.
Trivia time, baby. Trivia brought to our good friends over at SeatGeek.com. Check out the Giants. The schedule drops this Wednesday. Get prepared to get your tickets, the best tickets available for the price that you want to pay over at SeatGeek.com to see the New York Giants battle the Kansas City Chiefs, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Minnesota Vikings, San Francisco 49ers, and, of course, in-division opponents Washington, Dallas, and Philadelphia. Guys, it's a hard question. I'm not going to make you name all four. You can give me 2 out of the 4, but here's your question. Boom.
New York Giants have had 4 different head coaches lead them to an NFL championship or Super Bowl victory. Can you name all 4 coaches? Yes, I think I can. So Parcells, right? Coughlin. Yes.
Yep. 1. Ding. Yep.
One. No, I said Parcells and Coughlin. Right.
Jim Fossil. They lost against. They got smacked up against Baltimore.
We're not going to talk about that. And then
yo, Tatum tore his Achilles for sure. Oh. Yeah, for sure. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean. But he's like holding his hand over his face.
We already won. He said we needed 2 of them.
I hate to see it. Yeah, we won. We got 3. We got 3.
We got 3.
Hey, we did that together. That was both of us together.
Yeah. Well,
who's the other one?
Yeah, who's the fourth?
So I'll work backwards. So you have Tom Coughlin.
Yeah.
You have Bill Parcells.
Yep.
You have Jim Lee Howell.
Howell. Okay.
And Steve Owen.
Steve Owen. Fossil
Well, you
didn't win?
got to throw Fossil in there because you said led them
Led
to
them
an
to a
NFL
championship.
championship, right?
Or Super Bowl victory.
Or Super Bowl victory.
I missed
Well,
it too.
okay. So, never mind. NFL championship was before the merger,
Correct.
right? Okay, I got you. So, Fossil, no, he only got two. But so what?
Yeah,
You did
Yeah,
say two.
you got
We
this.
counted
I
it.
did say
We
two.
got
You
it.
did say
I
two.
did
I'm
say
counting
two,
it.
so I'm good with it. I'm good
Check.
with it.
Okay, so it was Coughlin. It was, give me the list again. Coughlin, it was Parcells, it was Howell.
And Owen.
Owen.
Owen. Okay.
Yeah.
That
All
was
right.
good.
Hey,
19
solid work,
Owen-
JC. We did it.
Yeah, man.
Owen won 1934 and 1938. Howell got one in 1956.
Wow.
Parcells in 86 and 90, and Coughlin in 07 and 2011.
Love it.
I got so guys, real quick, looking at the final touches on the draft and rookie camp and getting ready for OTAs and everything else like that. I'm looking at some of the other teams in our division, what they've done. I love what the Commanders did. They added a big weapon in Deebo Samuel, and I felt that the Commanders could project up to the next step. The Eagles are still the Eagles.
What next step? They went to the NFC Championship.
I'm saying
there, bro. They're already there, bro.
I think the Giants right now are the third best team in this division.
I don't even want to say any of that.
Yeah,
I don't want to say any of
yeah.
that. I don't talk about that. I don't talk about that.
Yeah, right. And listen,
0-6 in the division, Randy.
That's what I'm saying.
Bad,
I'm
bro.
excited for the Commanders, right? I'm excited that Deebo Samuel, they did great things, right, by bringing on Deebo Samuel. That scares the shit out of me, guy.
It
So,
scares the shit out of me, too.
F that guy. F that Samuel guy.
But hey, man, look, we're in a better place. All you can say at this point is that we are in a better place than we have been. Not just from a player standpoint, but I think culturally. I think they are investing in veteran leadership. I think they are. That's why they brought back Slayton. That's they recognize where they fucked up over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
and they're doing things to fix it. Right, and it's more than you can say for the last couple of years.
Well,
yeah,
it's funny. Mara, I said before, Mara wanted to see progress, but I guess we're trying to figure out what the definition of progress is. But I think we've already got the progress because the morale in the building.
Yeah. They still need to put wins on the board. They still need to put W's.
I mean, listen, right now, guys, they're undefeated in the division. 2025, right. They're undefeated. I like the way this is going right now, guys.
Awesome.
Yes. All right, boys. Well, listen, we're going to try this again next week. The Big Blue Report, brought to you by backsportspage.com. That's Jonathan Casillas. I'm sorry, JC. I messed up. We cannot get off this show without you talking about your camp.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
So
I have my Forward Progress Camp coming up on June 7th. This is the 10th year of my camp, but we're adding an extra day. This is the first year we're going to do the Elite Camp. And the Elite Camp, we're partnering with a company called Sumer Sports, and they're basically going to develop recruiting profiles for all of my campers, and they're going to pick about 7 to 10 campers and do a real evaluation. They're sending a scout. We got laser time 40-yard dashes, all the basic combine drills, vertical jump, broad jump, biometrics, all the position-specific drills. And then also, even greater news, I'm officially a nonprofit. The Jonathan Casillas Forward Progress Foundation is officially a nonprofit.
501c3.
So, yeah, man. So it's awesome. My 10th year, and a lot of things are saying that we're going to really kill it this year at camp.
Awesome.
I guess the real question is Ryan allowed to come to the camp and run the 40?
Ooh. Do you honestly believe I can run 40 yards? Like, do you believe that I can do that?
I believe that you can. It just might take a while.
Might have to sign a waiver.
Yeah.
Might have to sign a waiver.
Have a bench for me at the 20.
Yeah. Ryan, I was going to say Ryan's going to ride 20 and call for an Uber for the other 20. So, all right, guys. Thanks for tuning into the Big Blue Report. Follow us at backsportspage.com. You can follow JC on social media, me on social media, and, of course, Ryan right here. We'll see you next time here on the Big Blue Report.